Welcome to hell. How's that for an introduction? Bowser's Castle is probably one of the coolest looking tracks in the entire game, and the soundtrack is pretty good too. And also, yep, that's pretty much all the good things I've got to say about this track. Usually I try and keep things positive on this channel, but this might actually be one of my least favorite tracks to time trial in the entire game. I've got quite a mouthful as to why, but I'll save that for the end of the video. In the meantime, welcome to part 15 of Basic Training, where we're going to go over everything you need to know about Bowser's Castle on 150cc. As always, we're going to cover the recommended builds, mushroom strats, coin lines, and other advanced tips and tricks to help you start mastering the course. This tutorial is going to be broken down into two parts. In part 1, I'm going to go over a basic version of the run that won't include any advanced strategies whatsoever, and is designed to be widely reproducible so that you can easily conquer the Staff Ghost. In the level 2 version of the run, I'm going to go over all the strategies that I use in my current personal best. I'm also going to quickly cover the world record strategies here since they aren't super different from my PB. Before we get into the video, I just want to say that if you're finding these tutorials useful, I'd really appreciate it if you dropped a like and a comment, since this not only lets me know that you're enjoying the content, but it also lets YouTube know to recommend these videos to other racers who might also be looking for tips and tricks on how to improve. I release a new video every week, so hit that subscribe button and the notification bell beside it so that you can stay up to date with all my latest content. With all that out of the way, allow me to be the Virgil to your Dante as we go through the hellaciousness of Bowser's Castle. The recommended starting build for this course is going to be Dry Bowser, Mach 8, Leaf Tires, and Paper Glider. This course doesn't give you a lot of opportunities to build up mini turbos, so we want a build that prioritizes speed a bit more. That being said, once you've got a handle on the level 1 version of the run, you can switch to our usual tryhard build of Waluigi, Bitty Buggy, Azure Rollers, and Paper Glider. This is the build that I use in my personal best, and is also the build that's used by the world record. The nice thing is that using it effectively won't require us to do anything super crazy, and at least for one part of the track, it actually makes it a little bit easier. But that's enough build up, let's check out the track. Honestly, aside from all the stuff that I'm about to whine about in the next few minutes, the course is pretty straightforward. Start by tricking off the bridge and then landing immediately in a drift. Then build up a mini turbo, release and grab the coin, and trick off the stairs. Now we want to again land immediately in a drift here so that we can grab both coins in this room. For the graded section, we're just going to be drifting with the turns here. Do a right drift and grab the rightmost coin, and then do a left drift and grab the leftmost coin. The positioning of the coins per se isn't what's really important here, it's just that grabbing these coins means that we're taking good lines. Once you release the second mini turbo, we've come to the first in what is going to be a long list of pains in the ass this course has to offer. Now once we get to this section, there's going to be a ramp followed immediately by a rotating fireball wheel and then a spike ball that swings from left to right after that. These are the first bits of track that operate on what's called a global cycle, and for those of you who missed the overly long rant in the Cloud Top Cruise video, this means that they're going to be in the same spot at the same time every time you play the track. Now the problem with this section is that while the fireballs and spike ball are easy enough to react to individually, the fact that they're so close together basically means that you need to know exactly where you're going to be before you even get to this part of the track. As an example, I've got more than enough space to take the left-hand side of the fireballs here, and if nothing else was in my way, then that's what I do because it's a tighter line. But I just happen to know from playing this track so much that around 13 seconds or so, the spike ball is going to be swinging back to the left. So if I do go to the left of the fireballs, I'm going to run into the spike ball when I go off the second ramp. That's the only reason that I go to the right-hand side of the fireballs here. Now what's my advice for this section? Ignore the fireballs for the most part, because what's going to get you here is the spike ball 9 times out of 10. The reason for this is that the fireballs take up a much smaller portion of the screen than the spike ball does, and so they're much easier to avoid. If you can just remember whether the spike ball is going to be on the left or right hand side of the track on each lap, then you can just react to the fireballs. And once you know all this, the spike ball room is actually pretty straightforward. All you have to do is trick off the 2 ramps and then land from the second one immediately in a drift. But if all the nonsense that I just talked about wasn't bad enough, sometimes the first ramp can just decide not to work for no apparent reason. You'll see this happen to me on lap 3 of my full time trial run. Pause the video as soon as I jump and you'll see that I hop on the ramp but I don't get the trick. I have no idea why this happens, but I have noticed that this tends to happen more on the left hand side of the ramp than the right hand side of the ramp. So if you are going off the left hand side of the ramp, I recommend doing a right hop since that does seem to make this happen a lot less frequently. Man, can you believe that I've just spent 3 whole paragraphs in my script whining about just this one section of track? Okay, so after the second ramp, we're going to land in a drift and then drift around the outer wall of the castle. Try and take this turn as tight as you can, but also make sure to grab the 2 coins on the way down. Now we're coming up to the second bit of the track that's going to force us to just learn where stuff is supposed to be at. After coming out of the outer wall, we're going to encounter a second set of rotating fireballs. Just like before, you've got more than enough time to react to the fireballs, but the problem is the split path section that comes right after the ramp. The path splits almost immediately after landing from the ramp trick, so you need to set yourself up so that you're facing the path that you need to take before tricking off the ramp. And the way to decide which path you want to take is to look at what the big lava Bowser is doing. You want to go to the side that he's either just about to punch or that he's just punched. There's a couple reasons for this. First of all, if you go to the other side, it's likely that he's going to be punching the ramp right around the time you get to it. It's not super hard to avoid his fist, even if it's directly on the path in front of you, but what happens is that the orange boost ramp gets shut down while he's doing that, which costs you a ton of time to miss. The other reason is that after he punches the track, it makes a bunch of waves, and you can actually trick off the crests of those waves like you see me do here. It's possible to get 2, 3, sometimes even 4 tricks there, which needless to say is super fast. The thing is though, this is only going to work if you take the correct path when coming off the ramp. The rest of this part of the track is played more or less like you'd expect. Grab your last 2 coins before the 90-degree turn, trick off the ramp, and then upon landing, shroom through the off-road while building up a super mini turbo to finish up the lap. I wish I could say that laps 2 and 3 play similarly to lap 1, but like I've already mentioned, the Fireballs, Spike Ball, and Lava Bowser are typically going to be in totally different positions than they were on lap 1. And even if that weren't the case, now we've got frickin' laser beams shooting up the track here. If you want to be safe, just hang out on the carpet because the lasers stop right when they get to it. What can make this part tricky when you're trying to optimize your times is that if you get here at the right time, you can actually drift on the inside of the lasers. But there's actually multiple sets of lasers here, and if you get here at the wrong time, then one of them will start shooting just as you're about to pass it, and you'll get hit. So that's why I mentioned that if you're not super comfortable with the track yet, just stay on the carpet. The only other difference between laps 1 and laps 2 and 3, as if that weren't enough already, is that instead of tricking off the stairs, we want to do a left drift off the top of the stairs, since this is going to allow us to take a super tight line around the U-turn here. Now before checking out a full run, let's recap the coin lines. Before the first set of fireballs, we're going to be grabbing 5 coins in total. 1 from the top of the stairs, 2 from the U-turn after the stairs, and 2 more from the turns right before the fireballs. For the last 5 coins, we're going to be grabbing 2 from the outer wall, 1 from the Lava Bowser section of the track, and then finally 2 more from the end of the Lava Bowser section of the track. Alright, now let's check out how all these strats are put together in a full run. There's only a few differences between the level 1 and level 2 versions of the run. First of all, we're using the Waluigi build like I mentioned before, and this is going to allow us to build up some additional levels of mini turbo. For example, in the turns before the first set of fireballs, we're actually going to be building up an ultra mini turbo to grab the coins instead of building up a super mini turbo and then grabbing the 2 coins while alternating left and right drifts. Looking at my lap 2, you'll notice that I do 1 hop before each of the ramps. The hop on the first ramp is to try and avoid the dreaded drop trick input that I talked about before, and the hop before the second ramp is to just help me face further to the left to get a better line around the outer wall. One thing to mention about the Lava Bowser section isn't really a difference in strategy per se, but in the level 1 version of the run, I mentioned that you can trick off the waves that the Lava Bowser makes. The timing of these tricks can be a bit precise, so I avoid that issue by just shaking the controller to do tricks instead of trying to tap my ZR button to trick off the crest of the waves. I then build up a super mini turbo after passing the orange boost ramp and then finish up the section by building up an ultra mini turbo before the glider so that I can take advantage of glider vectoring here. For those who don't know what glider vectoring is, if you're in the middle of any sort of mini turbo boost when going off the ramp, it's actually faster not to trick off the glider ramp and instead drift off the ramp to let your mini turbo get released automatically. The reason this is faster is that when you're getting your boost from the mini turbo, holding a down and left or down and right angle actually causes you to move faster than just going straight. The last thing to mention about this strategy is that the bonk into the wall is actually intentional, as it buys me just enough time to build up the Ultra Mini Turbo after going off the ramp, while also allowing me to avoid the gigantic rock that ends up being in my way after going off the ramp here. The last difference in strategy is that after coming off the glider, I build up an Ultra Mini Turbo around the mushroom shortcut and then do a left counter hop into a right drift to build up a final Mini Turbo. The world record strategies look pretty similar to the strategies that I use, except they use motion glider to get an even bigger boost from the glider vectoring. And then they build up 2 additional mini turbos after the mushroom cut, instead of just 1 like I do. Now whether you're trying to copy the strategies that I use in my personal best, or if you're trying to copy the world record strategies, your soft drifting needs to be on point. So I don't recommend going to this version of the run unless you've already got a really good handle on soft drifting. And that's everything you need to know about Bowser's Castle on 150cc. Again, I wish I could go into more detail on exactly how to optimize the course, but really, there's so much going on with the global cycles that you just kind of have to figure it out for yourself. If you thought that the lightning boost pads on Cloud Top Cruise were bad, this course kicks up the craziness by a factor of 1,000,000. The problem here is that unlike Cloud Top Cruise, where your pace really only dictates one portion of the track, Bowser's Castle has 4 different sections where you have to deal with global cycles. And if you're even behind by just 1/10 of a second, it can throw off your pace for the entire rest of the run. And no, I'm not exaggerating when I say that. So what ends up happening is that once you start improving by even just a little bit, you got to figure out where the spike ball is going to be at, and then you've got to figure out whether you need to take the left or right path once you get to the Lava Bowser section, and then you've got to figure out where the lasers are going to be. So really, even minor improvements basically force you to relearn the entire course. And if that wasn't bad enough, like I said before, the first ramp of the spike ball section can just randomly decide not to work. So yeah, all in all, this is definitely one of the more frustrating tracks in the game to learn how to time trial. But I hope that the advice that I laid out for you in this video will help you at least be aware of the sorts of things you need to pay attention to and how to navigate the rest of the track in a reasonably decent way. Let me know down in the comments if and how much time you were able to save from following the advice laid out in this video, because I'd love to hear from you. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to do some basic training, and as always, I'll see you in the next video.